Hi, welcome to this training on how to become a Buddy SU volunteer. Thank you for signing up and supporting new students in the next academic year. As a volunteer, you are a key source of support and help for new students transitioning to higher education here at UEA. This can cover questions on which clubs and societies to join, what the student experience is like at UEA in Norwich, and the role is all about giving the best advice and guidance you can as a current student. The role is not only a means for you to be helping somebody else, but actually enhancing your own skills, whether that's for your CV or personal skills to be able to help you out in later life. This training will take about 1 hour, followed by a compulsory quiz that you'll be able to find below this video in the Buddy SU Volunteer Hub. There's also lots of other useful resources for you that I would definitely recommend you take a look at over the next couple of months. My name is Amy Rust. I'm the project coordinator for the Buddy scheme at UEA. I've included my email address, which is amy.rust@uea.ac.uk. You can contact me about any queries about this training, your volunteering role, or anything to do with the Buddy scheme that you might have. I've also included the union.opportunities email address, which is a really useful email if you have any queries about your volunteering role or more generally volunteering within the student union. As I mentioned before, this training will take about 1 hour with a quiz at the end that will take about 15 to 20 minutes. This training aims to give you everything you need to know to be an engaging volunteer, so that includes the responsibilities of a Buddy SU volunteer and also the limitations of your role, understanding the barriers new students might be facing, whether that's pre-arrival in August and September or post-arrival with support around integration that they might be experiencing, and how to be a helpful and supportive buddy, but how to be the best volunteer that you can be, and also having an understanding of some of the common situational queries you might be helping with throughout their first year at university. So as volunteers, you are essential in supporting new students in their first year of university by creating that welcoming environment, being that friendly face, being able to help them get involved in everything they need to know about UEA and what Norwich has to offer. But what makes UEA so wonderful is that you're not just joining a Buddy SU volunteering community, you're also joining a wider student community of volunteers that make student life here at UEA so wonderful. Across the student union, we have volunteers that include clubs and society committee members, so you might also sit on a club and society committee, course reps which support with academic issues, and our student officers, including our part-time officers, which create those different opportunities, those regular events, different social opportunities for new students to be able to get involved in. And Buddy SU volunteers and student leaders, I'll talk a little bit about student leaders later on in this presentation, but they are essential in supporting new students to get involved with as much as they can, have the best experience that they can within their first year and settle in as soon as possible. We ask as ambassadors of the scheme that you consider this wider student community in your volunteering role, so finding out what student groups there are, what activities are happening on and off campus, and how you might link up with those volunteers to be able to provide the best advice and guidance for your new students, to be able to make sure that they can meet their peers as early as possible, make friends and settle in. So let's get straight into it, the new academic year. Some of you might remember your first year and particularly those first few weeks where everything arriving at university might seem a little bit strange. There might be lots of questions you had when you first arrived, or there might be some more general concerns that you might have that might relate to your experiences of joining higher education, whether that's being away from your family and friends for the first time, elements of homesickness, wanting to find people from a similar background to you as soon as possible, being able to find your peers, find that kind of group of friends as early as possible, or just being able to struggle maintaining higher education alongside other commitments, whether that's children or whether you're local to Norfolk and socialising might be a bit more difficult because of a commute. Everyone can experience different feelings within those first couple of weeks, and particularly within those first year. So it's really important that our volunteers are able there to support those students through that. Anyone can experience those feelings when first arriving at a new place, and it's really important that our volunteers are there to support their students, but to make sure no one goes through that experience alone, and everyone has the best possible first year. That's why the buddy scheme was set up here at UEA. It's more important for students who might face those additional barriers with both access and integrating in higher education, but more broadly that we're able to support as many first years as possible to make the most of their time here at UEA. So what is BuddySU? Well, quite simply, BuddySU is a peer support scheme, so it's all about students being able to support other students. When you applied to be a volunteer, you would have confirmed how many students you would have liked to support in September. We might have a look at that again in January for those new students starting in January. But quite simply, as your volunteering role is all about helping new students settle in as quickly as possible. So again, that might cover questions of like what clubs and societies they might want to join, what their hobbies are, what new things new students might want to get involved in, giving them a little bit of guidance about the student experience, where different buildings are. The role's pretty much endless in terms of the type of questions you might get asked. It's really important that you give your honest experience at UEA settling in and kind of giving that little informal advice that we might miss in registration. Again, it's really important that you know you're not just helping yourself but also enhancing your own skills. There's lots of different skills you might develop by supporting somebody else. Firstly, around confidence, being able to integrate, be able to use different volunteers, being able to work as a team to be able to support somebody, being able to help a new student get involved in all the different events and signposting skills to be able to help them find the right services. What we aim within BuddySU is that both you as a volunteer but also as a new student are part of a community from day one. You don't have to spend lots of time trying to make friends, meet new people. You're part of that from day one, and that whole process can be made a lot easier. And also what underpins BuddySU as a programme is that actually by talking to somebody and having a friendly face from day one will hopefully be able to facilitate better mental health throughout their whole time here at UEA. Have someone to be able to ask questions, be able to support them with the problems they might experience throughout their time here at UEA can actually have a really bigger impact throughout their whole time. Just to give you a little overview of the volunteering role, we know from previous experiences of what our volunteers tell us that it can be one of the most rewarding experiences here at UEA. Again, when you apply to be a volunteer, you would have indicated how many students you would like to help. The matching process takes place from August of the academic year over that summer period for them to be able to confirm their place at UEA and for you to help them with those initial queries. But the matching will also carry on up until December, where you might have students who struggled a little bit more within those first couple of weeks here at UEA, and we're there to support them as well. So volunteers are regularly meeting up or talking online with their buddies. They also attend different BuddySU events with their new students to see how they're settling in, take part and introduce them to all the different elements of university life. As a volunteer, we'll talk a little bit about why you should volunteer and the benefits a little bit later on, but just to give you a bit of an overview. One of the main benefits that I think in terms of volunteering, beyond just being a really rewarding experience, is a 2-for-1 card at Unio, coffee shop based in Union House, that allows you to have a 2-for-1 coffee every time you meet up with your buddy. But also there's lots of different training courses and conferences that you'll be able to attend as a volunteer. But more so, we also give additional training to our student leaders that I'll talk a little bit later on about. I'll also just mention our student handbook, which is downloadable from the Volunteer Hub. That's a fantastic resource that includes everything on this presentation and more that will help you throughout your role, and it's a good point of contact throughout the year. If you do have any questions, do make reference to that and make sure you've downloaded it after this training session. So we'll just take a minute, just go through the role description. The student handbook gives a lot more in-depth about the role description, so please make sure you download that document as well. But the main expectation of you as a volunteer is simply just to engage and interact with your first year students. That's both online support, face-to-face support, meeting each other at socials, one-on-one support if you don't want to meet as a group, or whether you've just offered to support one student. Again, just being their point of contact, being able to offer them support. There's something to be said about those shared experiences and being able to talk about your own experience to be able to support somebody else. And just giving those really informal tips and tricks about studying here at UEA, taking part in student life, all those little things that we might have missed off in the big presentations. We'll talk a little bit later on about student services and how to recommend students to different services and what that might look like. But there is an importance of signposting that we'll talk a little bit about later on to make sure that you're providing students with the most professional services to get the support they need as soon as possible. We also ask, again, just around that informal suggestion of different clubs and societies to join, researching different events they might want to go to, finding out about your buddies, what interests and hobbies they have, and what they want to get out of their time here at UEA. So why volunteer? Well, as you've already signed up, I hope you already have an indication of why you wanted to sign up and what you wanted to get out of the scheme. But just to talk a little bit more about the other benefits, one of the most rewarding things is about helping new students, being able to help somebody in a similar situation to one you might have experienced. But you also get, in completion of volunteering, a certificate that goes towards your UEA award. The UEA award is an employability award provided by UEA Career Central, and it's recognised both regionally and nationally by lots of employers in terms of that extra thing on top of your CV to be able to support you to get a job after graduating. We also get, again, as I mentioned previously, a UNIO 2-for-1 card that will be given to you before September. And you also get a lot of access to different trips, events and training workshops that we offer throughout the year, free to our volunteers. I think one of the main benefits we probably don't talk about enough in terms of this role is actually the flexibility. I myself don't sort of check up on you every single day and see how you're getting on. It's very much up to you how much you give into the scheme in terms of how much you get back, but also how and you interpretate how you support new students. So it might be that your new student might only want online support and actually a couple of emails are sufficient in terms of the support they needed, or you might find that you actually become friends with your new students. One of the big benefits I think people get from the scheme is that actually they meet people from a similar background with similar interests and hobbies and become friends because of the scheme, which is really nice to see. Here are a few of our previous Buddy SU events. So we run a year-long programme of events put on by Buddy SU and by our student leaders that I'll talk a little bit about later on. But as you can see, we do a lot of trips off campus at different themed times during the year, but also just regular social trips, as well as wellbeing sessions at most crucial times of the year, and regular meetups, whether we do weekly meetups or meetups at different times of the day for people to attend, that is open both to new students and to volunteers alike. So just talk a little bit more in depth about your responsibilities. Again, your main responsibility as a Buddy SU volunteer is simply to communicate with your new students, both ahead of them starting university, if you've been matched before arrival, or if you are matched by a student who signed up once term has started, being able to get in contact with them as soon as possible. We'll provide you with a little bit of information about them, what their interests and hobbies are, what course they might be studying if that matches, and any similarities for you to be able to connect over. We'll be able to provide that with you alongside a templated email, which is also in the Volunteer Hub. We ask for you to attend all agreed meetings, so there might be a few volunteer meetups throughout the year. We do ask for you to attend those, be able to meet up with different volunteers, but also get some essential information. Again, just being able to help them settle in with university life and life in Norwich. And that can cover quite a lot of different questions and queries and situations. So there is a resource about how to effectively problem solve in the Volunteer Hub, so please do make yourself known about that. But again, it's just about being able to support them to settle in via those kind of informal conversations, and being able to share your own experience. Again, as I said previously about the flexibility of the role, allows you to kind of take on a volunteer role that suits you. We do just ask that once I ask for progression about how your role's getting on, or send out a survey, please do fill them out. It's really important information for us to know how the scheme's going, how you're finding the volunteering role, and also the type of situations your new students have needed help with. So now we'll just take a few moments to talk about the boundaries of the role. It's really important that as a volunteer, there are some things we don't expect of you to do, both for your own safety, your own well-being, and be able to manage your workload against other commitments and your academic studies. So starting university, we know, can be overwhelming for some new students, and we're just going to take a few minutes to just talk about how it's really important in those situations that you don't undertake a counselling role, and also that you're able to manage any disclosures you might experience as your time as a volunteer. So as a trusted person, whether you are providing online support or meeting up quite regularly, it's really important that whilst you're helping a student with the situation and able to listen to them, you're not taking on a professional counselling role. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different support services available at UEA to be able to support them over a longer period of time and make sure they're able to get the professional support they might require. And also, as a trusted person and as a volunteer and someone who's also a current student, you might be the first person that somebody discloses something to you. It's really important that you don't take on personal responsibility for that disclosure. We'll talk a little bit about the reporting system here at UEA and what type of support they might need a little bit later on. But it's really important that you signpost them onto the most relevant service for them to get the best support they can. And that said, if you do experience any safeguarding or health concerns, it's really important that you raise that with me as a project coordinator. I've repeated my email address here again. And if you are unsure of a situation or conversation you've just had with your new student, for example, they might feel a little bit homesick or unsure if university is for them, it's really important that you just raise that with me as a project coordinator, or signpost them to our reporting service that I'll talk a little bit about later on. Okay, so we'll just talk about some general boundaries. So it's really important you don't limit your contact to just one activity or socials. For example, don't just meet in the pub on a weekly basis. It's really important that you just mix that up a little bit, just to allow them to have a full breadth of university life, but also giving them the opportunity to be in spaces where they feel more comfortable. Be aware that no one's university experience is the same. Not everyone comes from the same background, and also not everyone will experience university in the same way or want to get the same things out of university as you might do. It's really important, if your new students ask for you to use specific pronouns, please do respect that and use them, and also just respect the different cultures and backgrounds that students might come from, and factor that in with the type of support or activities you do. All meetings should be in a public space. We do ask that you don't just meet in private, and allow people to know where you are at all times. We do ask that all meetings are conducted in the public space, preferably on campus, but we also understand that if you're both living off campus or it's easier to meet somewhere else, please do just make sure it's in public and not at somebody's house. And then this final point is just quite important, that if you feel that you can't offer either one of your buddies or all of your buddies the support they need, it's really important that you find a buddy volunteer who can. So in that case, please do just email me, let me know of the situation. We can redistribute your new students people who can provide that level of support they might need. Some people might think that's a bit of like an awkward situation to be in. It's absolutely fine, and often can be dealt with very quickly. Okay, so we're now just going to spend some time looking at the type of skills you might need in your role as a buddy volunteer. One of the most important being active listening. Active listening is all about listening with intent and being part of the conversation that you are in. So we hold conversations every day with different people, friends, partners, course mates, lecturers, anything like that. But how often are we distracted by external factors such as our phone going off, looking at something on our phone, looking at social media, being distracted by other thoughts, thinking about something else, not really wanting to be part of this conversation, anything like that, how that can be distracting to the person who is speaking. Active listening is all about listening with intent. Accurately listening is to be able to withhold your own assumptions, even temporarily, to avoid disrupting the conversation, making the person speaking feel like they're invalid or then you're not really listening to them, and then being able to just empathise with their position or their problem. Active listening is one of those skills that seems so obvious to us when we actually think about it, but we're just going to spend a couple of minutes just thinking about the benefits of active listening and how to change our behaviour in those conversations we have every day. So when meeting with your buddies or new students, you might experience some conversations where you might be unsure of how to respond or don't really know the answer to, and might need to ask more questions to be able to get to the root of what their concern is. And some of the benefits of active listening can actually be about understanding the motive of the conversation, understanding the problem that's underneath what somebody is saying, and being able to build a strong network with that individual, but also more widely, being able to reduce the stress level or diffuse the situation that might be occurring between the conversation. Active listening involves more than just listening to someone speak. It's really important as a volunteer you're ensuring you're listening and responding appropriately to what somebody is saying. You're not missing the underlying message of what someone is speaking about, and being able to help them find the right support as soon as possible and make sure you're giving them the best answer that you can. So within the Volunteering Hub, there is a much more in-depth resource about active listening that I would ask you to look at and just answer a few questions on, just to test your knowledge of the skill. But one of the 5 ways of active listening that can seem quite obvious to so many people, that we're just going to go over again quickly, around paying attention, so giving the speaker your undivided attention, being able to minimise the external factors that might impact your ability to be able to give your attention to a conversation. That might be putting your phone away, meeting in places which isn't as busy, so avoid mates walking past or getting involved in other conversations, and being able to maintain a level of interest throughout that conversation and not be distracted. The second one, body language. If you're like me and spent lots of time studying different psychologies, you might have an understanding of body language anyway and the impact that has on a conversation, but it can seem quite obvious. But again, making sure that your body language is open, that you are facing the person who is speaking, and that you're giving those kind of verbal and facial recognitions that you have understood what the person is saying. Providing positive feedback can be quite a difficult one in terms of being able to reduce our personal filters, our own assumptions and judgments about somebody or a group of people, and being able to understand what is being said and being able to avoid how you would experience a situation and imposing that on the person who is speaking. So it's really important that you're offering the opportunity for you to be able to paraphrase what somebody said and allowing them to reflect on what has just been said, to be able to get to the root cause of what a problem is, or being able to help them actively problem solve on their own. Again, just following on from providing feedback, deferring judgment, it's about avoiding interrupting somebody with your own opinions and being able to allow the speaker to be heard, feel visible and present within a conversation, and allow them to understand that you fully understood what that person has said. So again, allowing the person to fully complete their sentences before asking questions, avoiding counter arguments for the sake of it. I know we all do love being that devil's advocate sometimes, but allowing them to do that in a way that still makes them feel valid. It's really important. And then finally, again, there's lots more resources about what active listening is. This is just quite a brief overview in terms of how you would actively listen, but making sure that you're responding appropriately, so being open and honest with your response, and allowing them to work through a problem together with you, rather than just kind of giving them the solutions themselves. So I hope that gives you a little introduction to active listening. Again, please just look at the resources within the Volunteering Hub that might give you a bit more of a grounding and understanding ahead of your role. So now we're just going to move on to the type of support available. You'll see in the student handbook that there's lots more information about each of the support services available at UEA and also within the community and provided by student groups nationally in terms of the type of support you can receive at university. Here at UEA there are a number of support services available to all students to support them alongside their studies and embed themselves in student life. As a point of contact in their first years of university, as volunteers, you might be asked a variety of questions, and for some of those you might be able to feel you can give the answer to, but others you might need to signpost them to support services to ensure they get the correct support as soon as possible. We don't expect you to have all the answers. The signposting is really important to make sure that students get that support and make sure that their problem is solved as soon as possible. So in terms of student services on campus, we have Student Life, which is advisor appointments to do with finance, accommodation, international student support, anything to do with the Student Hardship Fund, so if there are any issues, emergency issues with student finance, it's really important to go see them. They are based in the Lawrence Stenhouse building on Chancellor's Drive, and they also have quite a big international support function as well. So if you are supporting an international student, it's really important you introduce that service as well. We also have Student Wellbeing, which is all about counselling and mental health support. So they offer a number of one-on-one sessions, group sessions and workshops to be able to support you with your own mental health or that of your new students. They are based in the Wellbeing Centre. They also support the assessment for specific learning disabilities or long-term health conditions. Learning Enhancement is all about academic support. They are based in Nelson Court. They can support with academic writing, references, skills relating to submitting academic work, and that transition from possibly not being in a higher education setting before to going into higher education, or moving from A-levels to writing in a higher education manner. They also host our peer-assisted learning schemes. These are school-based academic peer support schemes, so it's really important for you as a volunteer to just do a little bit of research, see if your school does have a peer-assisted learning scheme, and maybe linking up with the mentors within your school as well. UEA Student Union also has its own impartial team of trained and experienced advisors, so our advice issue service is independent of the university and allows you to get representation on a range of issues relating to student life separate from the university. So whether that's on a university procedure, your student rights, student finance, or any welfare issues, you can speak to them alongside student services. They are open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. You can contact them via their UEA.su website under your support. It's really important just to reiterate that they are independent of the university, so they're allowed to represent you without a conflict of interest, and also can speak to you impartially as well. Now, I just want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about Report and Support, which is the new reporting system in place by UEA, and and it enables students to be able to report incidents of bullying, harassment, sexual harassment or hate crimes on or off campus experienced either by students or being able to report on behalf of somebody else. So students and staff can report anonymously or for an advisor to get support, report with their own personal details. Like I said, you can report both as an individual on behalf of somebody else. So if you do witness any behaviour in your role as a volunteer, it's really important that you do report that via this mechanism so we are aware of it. There's also lots of information on the site about different campus campaigns, what local services there are available. So it's really, I would just take a couple of minutes to have a look at that website and familiarise yourself with it. And just following on from report and support, one section of it specifically looks at hate crimes, which is our campaign Eradicate Hate. So a hate crime is anything that is an act of hostility or violence directed at someone because of who they are or who someone thinks they are. UEA and UEA Students' Union has zero policy to hate crimes or any form of harassment on campus. However, it's really important that we just, as volunteers, get an understanding of what constitutes a hate crime and what can be reported and how to report that. So again, I would just take a few minutes to look at that report and support website, and then just the type of incidents that you might witness or experience that constitutes a hate crime, to make sure that you're reporting it. So that might be bullying or intimidation, hoax calls, online abuse, or microaggressions, which can include touching somebody's hair, avoiding somebody, being treated less favourably. If you see any of these behaviours listed or experience them yourself, it's really important that you do report them via the report and support service so that the university can act. And make sure that these type of behaviours are stamped out on our campus. So just given all that context, we just spoke about the different types of support services, how to address different issues and the role. We're just going to spend a little bit of time going through different welcome situations you might experience yourself in and how to manage them later on. The quiz later on will just have a few of these scenarios as well, so just to familiarise yourself with the process. So just one situation here: you are meeting your buddy for the first time and they appear physically upset and uncomfortable. You're talking to them for a bit longer and they disclose they don't get along with their housemates or anyone on their course. This is a surprisingly common situation for lots of students when they arrive at university, in terms of managing that expectation of what university should be like to the reality can be quite hard for certain students. So really there's two issues that we can probably identify here. One being a feeling of isolation and not being able to make friends, and secondly kind of not feeling like they belong in a certain situation. And secondly, not feeling like they belong. And secondly, a concern that they might not feel like they belong at UEA because they haven't really made those initial friends. So what we would recommend, one is we address the housemates issue, so being able to speak to their accommodation warden or student life to be able to see if there is a mitigation, whether they could move or address the situations that might be going on with their housemates. And they might also want to attend an advice issue drop-in in case they want to speak about that a little bit more with somebody. And then you might also want to look at different clubs and societies they might be interested in. So if there's any upcoming events where they could meet potentially new friends or meet people like them with similar interests. So they have that second option of being able to make friends outside of their course or housemates and have a friendship group there. So second scenario, if over email your buddy states they want to attend the club's taster session, however they've never properly played before, anxious about making a fool of themselves and not fitting in. For those of you who are possibly on a club or society committee, you might already know the answers to these type of questions, but for those who not, we might want to just reassure them over email that all new students are welcome, particularly within those first couple of weeks. A lot of their sessions will be taster sessions. It'll all be about introducing new members, and there'll be particular sessions going on. If it's something you're interested in, so if you've been matched on by hobbies and interests, hopefully you might have an interest in that activity as well. You can go with them, meet up before the session possibly, or go together. Then make sure that you do follow up after the session as well, see how they got on. More often than not, we find that the situations went well, and actually they have any questions about that activity afterwards, you can forward on to the committee. So just lastly, to go over the student handbook, again, that is a resource that you can download once you're finished with this training. It has lots of information about being a volunteer. It includes examples of how to be inclusive, how to make an effort and check in with your buddy, being aware of different identities and experiences of others. We do ask that you are trained and receive ongoing opportunities for learning and development as a volunteer. There's key points around making sure you're using the correct pronouns, respecting different cultures and backgrounds within your role. And please don't place your buddies in situations where they might feel uncomfortable or unable to speak up, and a little bit of information about that. And then again, just reiterating that if you do report any safeguarding, health and safety concerns or emergency issues straight away, either to myself, to student support services, or to an emergency service if needed. The student handbook includes lots of other information, including the code of conduct that we ask you to abide by. It's really important you do just take a look through that as well. So one of the last things I just wanted to speak to you about is our student leadership program. So as volunteers, we provide resources and training for you to be able to complete your role. However, you might be looking at a little bit more in terms of a volunteering opportunity at UEA, and that's where our student leadership program comes in. So you would have received in your induction email a little bit of information about this, but we support a range of different volunteers and train them to a higher level to be able to support volunteer management. We provide them with safeguarding training and positive bystander training, including event management and leadership training, for them to be able to develop a whole programme of events and being able to support both our volunteers and our first years throughout their first year at university. It's a really fantastic opportunity, and you'll be joining a really great team. So if this is something you are interested in, please do just drop me an email or go to the student leaders section of the Buddy SU website. I'll put a link into that within the volunteer hub as well, so you can take a look at all the role descriptions and how to apply there. So just some final points. Please be respectful within your role as a Buddy SU volunteer. Be respectful of how different we all are, the different experiences we come to university with, and the different experiences we will have once arriving at university. You might be paired up with someone who self-defines differently to you, and please do respect that. Within our matching process, we do support matching on similar self-definition characteristics and by course. So you should hopefully get a match that's quite suited to you. If not, please do contact me and let me know, and we can easily arrange that. And again, finally, if you can't offer your buddies the support they need, please do just get in contact with me or find them a buddy volunteer who can offer that support, and just let me know. With the volunteering role, it can be as much as you want to kind of get out of it. So it's really important that you kind of maintain a level of engagement both with me as the project coordinator, but also your first years throughout their first year of university. So lastly, my main thing is just to say to have fun with the role. If you do have any questions, do just get in touch with me. I really hope that you enjoy your role as a volunteer, and I will be sending out regular communications with you throughout your year to make sure you are well supported. So any questions, do let me know at amyrust@uea.ac.uk. And yeah, enjoy. Thank you for joining me in this training session.